My mother always says, communication is a two-way street. You ask me a question and I respond, or I tell you something and you react, or vice versa, and in that way we are giving and receiving information. Asking in the interrogative form, informing in the indicative form, and these two opposite directions of communication naturally have their most fundamental elements in opposite orders, to distinguish one from another. In the last video, I talked about the three fundamental elements of every sentence, which are the subject and the verb in two parts of a verbal conjugation. The first part indicates the past, present, future, and conditional. For past and present, conjugations of do, have, and be are used. For the future, will, and for everything conditional, would, could, should, can, may, might, must, shall. Words with slightly different meanings, but that all indicate some variation of potential, not confirmed existence. The second part finishes the verbal conjugation in simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous mode. These correspond to the verb in base form, to be verbing, to have verbed, and to have been verbing. I also talked about the fact that to ask a question, the order of these fundamental elements has to change. If you don't change the order of these elements, you can cause confusion. It would be like driving on the wrong side of the road. In Spanish, this isn't the case. The order of the elements isn't so strict. You can ask, ¿Está ladrando el perro? ¿El perro está ladrando? ¿Está el perro ladrando? And it's all understood as a question. But in English, the order is very strict. There's only one way to ask the question. Is the dog barking? Auxiliary, subject, main verb. And that's why the tone in English isn't as important. You can ask in an American tone, is the dog barking? In a British tone, is the dog barking? Or if you want, like a robot, is the dog barking? Complete monotone. But it's still understood as a question because the order of the elements is correct. And to answer the question, the order is just as strict in the opposite direction. Subject first. Yes, the dog is barking. Subject, auxiliary, main verb. These two structures are the two most primary, basic structures of the 7 sentence structures in contemporary English conversation. Indicative and interrogative. Statement and question. Specifically, yes or no question, because of course there are other types of questions. Questions that begin with question words, W words, like what, where, who, whom, which, when, why, how, who, how much, how many, what kind, how often, at what time, to what extent. And watch, if you add one of these words to the structure that we already know, now we've created a third structure, a new type of question, a more complex question, one that requires an answer beyond yes or no. Why is the dog barking? You can see that this structure is a variation of the second one, and it's not the only one. In fact, all of the 7 structures are based on these first two, interrogative and indicative. So, considering how important these 3 elements are and the order in which we put them, let us take a moment and appreciate the beauty of this fundamental outline of the 7 sentence structures. Really, the point in this methodology of mine, teaching you the 7 sentence structures and 16 verbal conjugations, is to bring you to a point of conversational proficiency where you can begin to have conversations. That's what it's all about. And in conversations, you learn new vocabulary, new expressions, and practice your pronunciation and everything else. But firstly, and most importantly, knowing what you're saying is the right way to say it. Vocabulary itself is not the most important indicator of fluency. With very little vocabulary, you can say a lot, but you have to know how to say it. You have to know the 7 structures, the 16 verbal conjugations, so that you can understand people and they don't get confused and you don't get confused and you can have a successful and enriching conversation. My name is Steven. Thank you for spending the time with me. If you would like to spend more time with me, you can subscribe to my Patreon, where I upload longer videos. I think I'm going to start doing a Twitch stream in which I will be broadcasting live and we can interact live. I have some availability during the week if you are interested in having a personalized, particular, one-on-one speaking class with me. And you can also find me on YouTube, Instagram, and of course, TikTok.
Do you see what I see? Do you see what I